Hello, everyone. I have been seeing online people putting up lists of movies that they felt were important in the last 5 years of the 2020s here. So I thought I would put a list together. I want to say these movies are not ranked. I was kind of just putting a list together. Couldn't really decide how I would rank them. Maybe after, when it hits 2030, I can rank some of these movies. But right now, I'm not ranking any of these movies. These are just movies that I have found personally to be movies that have been great in the last 5 years that I personally will rewatch and enjoy, or movies that just hit me personally. So this is my list of 20 movies from the last 5 years of the 2020s that have really hit me. So join the train on this one. And yeah, so yeah, we'll see. Hold on, someone just texted me or something. Is it important? No, it's not. It's not. Starting with one that I'm sure is controversial to some people, Terrifier 3. I just think Art the Clown is my new favorite horror villain icon. I'm sorry, Michael Myers. I'm sorry, Freddy Krueger. I love that Art does not talk. I love that he doesn't discriminate. It's not just kids having sex at a camp. It is everyone. No one is safe with Art the Clown. I love that he's funny. I love that I was dying laughing in the theater last year watching this movie. I've become obsessed with Art the Clown. I just think he's such an interesting character. So Terrifier 3 has become a movie that I've absolutely loved. I don't like Christmas. I will be watching this every freaking Christmas. I just think this movie was that good. This movie has a 2.9 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I am not in the popular opinion on this one, but I loved Terrifier 3 and I'm obsessed with Art the Clown. I think this movie's just freaking hilarious. So Terrifier 3 is in here for me. Again, I know people aren't going to like me for that one. Next up is Babes. I had no clue about this movie last year, up until, well, last year, when some people were seeing it and calling it Bridesmaids Meets Pregnancy. And I went into it, holy crap, it's Bridesmaids Meets Pregnancy. I absolutely love Bridesmaids from 2011. And I remember seeing commercials for it and stuff in 2011 going, I do not want to watch that. That's a chick flick. No interest. And then we watched it in high school, of all places. Places we probably shouldn't be watching that, but we watched it in high school. Um, and I was dying laughing and loved every flipping second of it. And I have watched Bridesmaids so many times. And this isn't a movie that is similar to Bridesmaids where I could watch 100 times. It's got a lot of heart, but it's also freaking hilarious. And we need more comedies nowadays. There's just no comedies. Everyone's insulted by everything, and we just need some more comedies. Um, I think this is just such a great comedy, and it is about pregnancy, something that I can't experience because I'm a dude and I don't want to experience it, especially after watching this movie. It sounds terrible, but yeah, I loved how freaking funny this is, and this is definitely a movie that I will be watching time and time again because it's so freaking funny. In fact, I could see myself watching like this and then Bridesmaids, or Bridesmaids and this. This is a good double feature that I'm actually gonna have to watch. I didn't realize that till right now, but I'm gonna have to do a double feature with Bridesmaids. Next up, Last Night in Soho. I remember seeing this in 2021 and just absolutely loving it. We had just gotten out of COVID and stuff like that. And I just thought this movie was beautifully done. The twist, there's certain twists and stuff like that that you kind of see coming, but it's so beautifully shot. I love the characters so much. I love the mystery behind it. I love kind of the horror mix with kind of the science fictiony of it. Um, I love the time period that a lot of this movie takes place in. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've watched this movie so many times since. I owned it on 4K. I absolutely adore this movie. Edgar Wright directed it. I just think this movie is so good. Um, yeah, and there's also the main character played by Thomasin McKenzie. Is that how you say your name? Thomasin McKenzie. Um, she has she's so passionate about fashion, and I love that, and how she has this dream, and I love movies about people with dreams. um so yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. Anya Taylor Joy is great. Thomasin McKenzie is great. um just all around a really fun kind of mystery thriller, beautiful movie. It just looks so beautiful. The Texas switchbacks with the dancing scene are just phenomenal. I love that dance scene so much. So that's why it's kind of on the list for me. Next up, a movie that came out. What was it? Well, 2023. I saw last year. Anatomy of a Fall. I like true crime kind of things. I love the idea of who did it, what happened, blah 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 blah. This movie is has that. And it's in the first 5 minutes that everything happens. The kid comes back from a walk with his dog, and his dad is dead on the ground. The window is open. Did he fall? Did he jump? Did his wife kill him? I love that idea, and constantly throughout the movie debating what happened and constantly arguing with myself of what happened. And this movie does that. It's technically a foreign film. Half of it is in English, half of it is like in French, I believe. I need to watch it again, but it's so good. And the true crime in me was like, this is fascinating. This is why I like true crime, not for what happens. I don't care about what serial killers did per se. I want to know what's behind what happened, and going into the behind, the fact that the dad was possibly depressed, the fact that the window was open and he could have fallen, the fact that the husband and wife had been arguing. I love that idea, and what happens and how it ends is just absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen Anatomy of a Fall, check this one out. It's really interesting. Like I said, half of it is in English, half of it is in French. So it is technically kind of a foreign film, but it's so intriguing and so fantastic. I absolutely love Anatomy of a Fall. Next up, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is a movie I recently rewatched, and I remember seeing it in 2022 and just thinking that the animation was absolutely beautiful, and it is absolutely beautiful. And I love that this is a kids movie that talks about death. There's literally a character in here that is death, um, and kind of the message behind the movie is live each moment like it's your last. Um, enjoy life. And I love that. I think this is a kind of movie that everyone needs to watch. It's a kids movie. Don't get me wrong. It's animated, um, and there's cartoon characters, but it has such a great message of just live life to the fullest. Do what you want. Spend time with people that you care about. Um, don't be afraid to say what you need to say to the people that you care about. Just enjoy life. I love that message. I love the meaning. Just the animation. This is absolutely beautiful. I love that it's kind of like Spider-Versey. Um, yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. It is funny. It's adorable. Characters in it. Well, like the dog should be totally annoying. He's not. The wolf is such a cool death character that I absolutely love. Um, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There's kind of a message with her that's absolutely great. Um, yeah, this is just a really good movie, beautifully animated. So, yeah, Puss in Boots. I can't believe it's up there, but it's up there for me. Next up, Barbarian. I remember seeing this in theaters, not knowing what to expect, and thinking the first half was almost generic at first, and then there's a twist that happens, and I go, "Oh no, this is not generic. This is insane." And it just twists perspectives. And while it does go a little crazy and kooky by the end, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. This movie's insane. I've watched it a few times now. Um, just the twists and turns of it. And I will never ever go into an Airbnb the same way again. Um, and I will do so much research before going to an Airbnb. It's just insane where this movie goes, and I absolutely love Barbarian. I don't want to say too much more just because it is so crazy and there are some twists and turns. But it came out in 2022, so you should definitely check it out if you haven't already. Glass Onion, A Knives Out Story. This is a movie that I enjoyed the first Knives Out. I didn't love it, I think, as much as a lot of people did. I found it extremely predictable. Glass Onion, I found kind of predictable as well. Um, but I had a little bit more fun with it. And I didn't love this. Well, I liked this movie the first time I saw it, but I didn't love it as much as I do now. I've watched this movie so many different times. I don't usually have Netflix. I have gone on Netflix just to watch this movie. I've renewed my subscription for a month just to watch this movie because it is so much fun. Um, I just love the cast of characters that are in this. I'm so excited for the third Knives Out movie that's supposed to come out this year. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited for that third Knives Out movie. I'll probably review this entire franchise again before the third one comes out because it's just such an interesting movie. I love Daniel Craig in this role. I think he's so good. I love his little Kentucky fraud accent. that he's got. Um, yeah, I just think the cast of characters are so much fun. The dialogue is so good. Um, and while I think it is predictable, and I hope the newest one will not be as predictable as the first two have been, it kept me going enough that I had fun with it. So, Glass Onion, a movie I really have found I've liked more and more as I went on. Next up is another movie from last year, DD. This movie just hit home for me because the kid is the same age as me in the year that it takes place. And just certain things that happened in 2008 are in this movie. The Dark Knight, for example, being the age that he is, going into high school, the summer before high school, just all these things. A lot of things the kid experiences, I experience. Um, Even though a lot of the things that he also does, I have never done or did a lot later in life. Um, but yeah, it hit for me just because this kid is the same age as me. I don't think enough people were talking about this movie. Um, I don't know if this movie necessarily could have been an awards contender, um, but I do think more people should have been talking about this movie because it is really good. Um, I absolutely love the kid DD. He just there's something about him, and again, I think it really hit me as far as being like an awkward teenager. This kid just felt very me. Um, and I enjoyed that about this movie. Again, this is much more of a personal list for me because this just really hit me, um, and hit me at the same time that this kid is in the movie. So, DD, if you haven't seen DD, check it out. I believe it's streaming on something. It was streaming on Peacock or something. It couldn't. Maybe it's not now. Next up, Robert Eggers' last movie, The Northman. Um, this is a movie I've watched many times. I've watched the commentary for it. I have it on 4K. Um, this is such an amazing movie. I just I love where Robert Eggers went with this movie. This is why I was so excited for Nosferatu, and maybe why I was a little disappointed with Nosferatu. I just think it's such a beautiful piece of film, um, and I think again, just so similar to what I was talking about with Last Night in Soho, so beautifully shot. Certain things they did, like even the commentary. They talk about the scene where he's rowing at the beginning and how it goes from this person to this person, this person, this person. The person in front of him had to jump out of the boat so that the cameraman could sit down in front of Skarsgård to get that shot. And I just think that's so cool. There's so much care and thought put into this movie, and I absolutely love that about this movie. Yes, it is Hamlet. It is The Lion King. But I think that's why I like it. I love The Lion King. I love Hamlet, and I love The Northman. I just found it so good. Chester is making a mess of one of his toys once again. How great! Next up, we have Another Round. This movie came out in 2020. It is a Danish film about teachers who make a promise, a commitment to essentially be tipsy at all times to see if it makes their lives better. This movie's fun. It's heartfelt. It's beautiful. It's a friendship movie. The last scene of this movie is so good. The song "What a Life" is absolutely great. I've jammed out to it so many different times. If you haven't seen Another Round, really check this one out. Again, it's Danish, so it's not in English. They've talked about remaking this, I believe, with Leonardo DiCaprio. Just watch Another Round. It is such a good movie. I absolutely love this movie. I love it. I love it. Being from Wisconsin too, just I don't know. Being from Wisconsin and Wisconsin, where we drink a lot, this movie was so fascinating to watch. So yeah, Another Round. Next up, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think this might be my favorite comic book movie of the last 5 years. Um, Trying to think of another one. I think this would be the best comic book movie of the last 5 years, which is not something I thought I would ever be saying. Zack Snyder is very miss for me. I love a lot of things that he does in his movie, but overall, his movies don't necessarily line up for what I want. Um, but Zack Snyder's also from Wisconsin, so I got to support him every time I can. That's why I haven't watched the Rebel Moon movies because I've heard they're so bad that I just don't even want to talk about them. I don't even want to think about them. I don't want to do it. But Zack Snyder's Justice League was fantastic. You can tell he cares about all these characters. Um, his style is a little different, but I think it works for this 4-hour epic movie. It's really technically 3.5 hours. The last 30 minutes is kind of just like post-credit scenes kind of tacked on so we can see what his vision was, which I don't know if I would have loved his vision for his other movies. Um, but I definitely like this one. This one is so incredible, so much better than the Justice League. So beautifully shot, beautiful moments. It, it just this movie totally worked for me. And I do have this one on 4K. I absolutely love this movie enough that it's on 4K. It's not one I'm going to rewatch a lot just because it is 3.5 hours long, but it's also split into parts, which works better too. You can watch this as a mini series. I just think this really works. I think all the casting was really good for the most part with this. Um, and I just think this movie is fantastic. I really do. Um, Part of me is glad we're not going to see what his world looked like, but after watching this, I also kind of wanted to see what the rest of his world was. I enjoyed The Flash. Didn't think it was the best comic book movie, but it was fun and enjoyable. I know a lot of people didn't feel that way. I personally did. Zack Snyder's Justice League, I thought was just fantastic, and it gave me hope for his world, even though we'll never see his world anymore. So yeah. Next up, Spider-Man: No Way Home. I take that back. This is my favorite comic book movie of the 2020 so far. Zack Snyder's Justice League, though, is very close behind. I think I would give Spider-Man: No Way Home like a 9 out of 10. Is what I've given it. Zack Snyder's Justice League, I maybe gave like an 8 out of 10 too. This movie's so good. Are there little plot holes and stuff like that? Yes. The fact that this movie is about college applications and getting accepted to college, which is why things go down. The fact that Doctor Strange does something so stupid without fully explaining himself first. Yeah, it's a bit silly. But after that, it's so good. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire being in this movie was not just a cameo thing. It wasn't just there for nostalgia. It had purpose and reason. And I cannot wait for Spider-Man 4. I hope that it is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I hope they don't go cosmic and crazy with it. Like there's been some talks that it might be. I know Tom Holland is a producer now, so he's got some say in what it's going to be. I hope it is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like the movie ends. Um, yeah, I love everything they did with this. Everything felt intentional. Everything felt important. Um, and Alfred Molina coming back as Doc Ock was fantastic. Willem Dafoe was so good in this movie. I've watched this movie so many different times. Another one I bought on 4K. I really do enjoy this movie. I've talked this movie a ton on this channel, specifically when I was doing more podcasts. So yeah, I've talked about this movie way too much, but I love this movie so much. It's such a good Spider-Man movie, such an enjoyable movie. I loved it so much. All right, next up is a movie that I never thought I would be talking about. I remember when I saw this last summer, I was not excited for it. It wasn't last summer, actually. It was the summer before, wasn't it? 2023, yeah. Summer before. 2 summers ago now, almost. Was not excited for it. Went to see it right before going back home to Wisconsin for a couple weeks. And came out and went, that actually was pretty good. And then went home to watch it with one of my old friends that worked at the movie theater that I always went to all the time, who was not excited for it. And we all saw it together, and he came out going, hey, that's actually pretty good. And then I went to Chicago that week after, hungover after going to Lollapalooza, and seeing Barbie for a third time. This movie is actually really good. And then I saw it a fourth time in IMAX, and I've seen it a couple of times since. This movie is funny. It's got a little too much political messaging at time. It doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it a Ken movie? Is it a Barbie movie? Um, a lot going on. I think it feels like Greta Gerwig wrote a script. It feels like Noah Baumbach wrote a script, and they just kind of put them together. So it's a little messy, I guess you could say. But I think the humor is so good. Um, the beautiful storytelling is there. I just enjoy this movie so much. I can't believe how many times I've watched this movie. I'm probably watched this movie a couple more times at home. So what? I'm at like maybe 6, 7, 8 times that I've watched this movie within the year and a half that it's been out. I really did enjoy this movie. I never thought this movie would be on my list for best movie of the year of 2023. I think it was number 10. I didn't think it would be on the best of 2020, but when I'm looking back at the 2020s, the last couple of years, I really did enjoy this movie, and I've watched it a few times since. I have happy memories of this movie. So yeah, for me, it is a movie that I really do enjoy. Ryan Gosling's so good too. Pearl. I really enjoyed X. Didn't love it. Love it. Didn't love it. Love it. Really loved Pearl. Definitely did not enjoy Maxine necessarily as much last year, but I really enjoyed Pearl. I love that it's kind of a character study, and it's just this woman who's just kind of explodes. It's kind of the Joker thing. It just takes one bad day to turn someone crazy. And it is another movie about kind of following your dreams in a sense. Um, and yeah, I absolutely enjoy this movie. Again, I have another memory of this movie. In 2022, when it came out, I was in Maine, in the hometown of Stephen King, when I saw this movie at a small theater. Next door, I believe the movie Beast was playing because I could just hear the of the lion through the walls. And I just have such great memory of this. I believe I was the only one in the theater. I had the theater to myself watching this beautiful, artistic movie about a woman just essentially losing her mind all of a sudden because of just a series of events leading up to a chaotic breakdown. And I absolutely love it. The last scene of this movie where she's just smiling at the camera as the credits go is so fantastic. Mia Goth is so good. Yeah, Pearl's just such a good movie. Dune Part 2, another movie that came out last year. This movie is just so beautiful. It is so gorgeous. I'm not the biggest science fiction fan. There's a lot of things in this movie that is over my head. But you can still enjoy this movie without being that big of a science. What are you doing, Chester? He's crawling under my bed for some reason. Are you trying to get food? What are you trying to do? Silly dog. Anyways, this movie is just such a beautiful piece of cinema. Um, it's one of those movies that I just don't want to watch at home because it was such an experience seeing it in IMAX. So beautifully shot. The black and white sequences were so good. The sandworm scenes are so good. Um, just such a great cast. Beautiful everything. Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for director. I have not watched all the movies that have been nominated for director this last year, so I have to work on that before I can say Denis Villeneuve was snubbed of an Oscar or snubbed for an Oscar nomination. We'll have to see on that one. But it's just so beautifully done. So much care put into this movie. Just phenomenal all around. I just could not believe how much I loved this nearly 3 hour long movie. Just so good. So good. Next up, a 3 hour movie that came out the same weekend as Barbie, Oppenheimer. Similar story with Barbie. I saw this the week, but the Thursday night that it opened in IMAX, where in Greenville, South Carolina here, and then went home that weekend. Went to Chicago. Saw this in 35 millimeter at the Music Box in Chicago. I believe the theater is now 100 years old. It's a super old theater in Chicago. Such an experience seeing this in 35 millimeter. I didn't realize how much of a difference it would make the movie look. The black and white scenes were just in particular so beautiful to look at. And this is another movie that I don't want to watch it at home. It's crazy to think that this movie about a 3 hour essentially investigation kind of this it's a talking movie. Is a movie that I don't want to watch at home. It's a movie you want to experience on the big screen. It's kind of crazy to say that. But yeah, it's so good. The fact that half of this movie is in black and white, the fact that it's 3 hours long, the fact that it's R-rated and it made almost $1 billion is insane. I don't know why they haven't re-released it to try to get it to $1 billion. What are you doing, Chester? He's chewing on his bone. What a weird dog. But yeah, this movie is so freaking great. It's a movie I'm constantly thinking about. Yeah, just Christopher Nolan. He's just a brilliant director. I absolutely love him. I cannot wait for his new Odyssey movie coming out. Just phenomenal director. I absolutely love him. So Oppenheimer had to be on here. Again, it's not a movie I've rewatched at home, but I saw it the 2 or 3 times in theaters, and I just absolutely loved it. Next up, a movie from last year, The Substance. This movie just blew my mind, and it kind of changed the way I think about things. And I've started doing different things as far as my life goes because of this movie. This movie is just insane. I don't want to say too much about it because it is still fresh. It just got nominated for a bunch of awards this morning, so a bunch of people are going to be going out to see this movie. But it is insane. Gave me a lot to think about, and I just really, really enjoyed this movie. Crazy body horror movie that I absolutely loved. So yeah, this movie is just so good. I absolutely love this movie. Is this the last one? Nope, I got a couple more. Next up, Anora, my favorite movie of last year. This movie, it's such a good dark comedy. Like I said earlier, we don't have a lot of comedies that came out, and this is actually a really good comedy. Don't get me wrong, like the last scene is heartbreaking, but it's so beautifully done, so beautifully shot, so beautifully directed, so beautifully acted. And this movie's getting re-released again. I want to go see it in theaters again because it's just so good. Um, and again, another movie I don't want to talk too much about just because it just came out. It just got nominated for a bunch of awards. But this movie, I just can't stop thinking about this movie and how good it is. I've been talking to so many different people about how they need to see Anora. It's so good. If you haven't checked out Anora, check it out. Again, kind of a dark comedy that is really enjoyable. How many more do I got? I got a couple more here. Next up, a movie that won Best Picture in 2023, Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie is insane. It's funny. It's heartfelt. There's a scene where rocks are talking to each other, but they don't actually talk. It's subtitles. There's a scene where people have hot dog fingers, and it's so good. It's so good. It won Michelle Yeoh her Oscar, Kiki Kwan his Oscar, Jamie Lee Curtis her Oscar. It's so creative, so brilliant, so crazy, so out there. I'll never look at a trophy the same way again. Another movie that, like, I've told people, if you like weird, crazy movies, you might love this one. Just so beautifully shot, so beautifully done, so beautifully acted, and just a movie. At the end of the day, it's kind of a movie about a mother-daughter relationship, which I'm not a daughter, obviously. I don't necessarily have a great relationship with my mother, but I don't know, it resonated with me. I think it's absolutely beautifully done. I don't know. This movie definitely up there. Um, Last one here, Top Gun Maverick. The movie that Steven Spielberg says saved movies, which I can't help with argue. I can't help but agree with. I can't argue with that really at all. This movie did something. Um, People that haven't gone to the movies in years went to go see this movie. Um, a movie that made me bawl my eyes out by the end. I found this movie so beautifully moving. I saw it, I think, 9 times in theaters. It was the last movie I saw at the theater in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where I live, before it turned into a different kind of theater. The last movie I saw on theater 11 of that theater. Yeah, this movie was so incredible. I wish I could have seen this movie in IMAX. I can't wait for it to be re-released in IMAX. I would love to see it. This is a movie I could see myself loving in 4DX. And also another movie, I've said this a few times, I don't want to watch this movie at home. I think I've watched it one time at home. I own it on 4K. But it's hard to watch this movie at home. This is such a theater experience. This is a movie I want to be with other people with. I want to feel that sound. I want to feel the rumble of everything. I need to get better. I need to get surround sound or something, because this movie is just so freaking incredible. I absolutely loved it so much. I love that it brought people out to the theater. I love that it was as successful as it was. So Top Gun Maverick, definitely a movie that has been one of the best of the last 5 years. So that was my list. Like I said, it's not in any particular order, just movies that at least have resonated with me. Yeah, quite a few movies that have really hit. Quite a few movies from the last year on here that I want to see if in 5 years from now, will they be on my top movies of the last 10 years? I feel like a couple of them could be. Um, but yeah, considering we had COVID and everything, I think there's some decent movies have came out in the last 5 years. While I think last year was a little bit lackluster, there's actually a lot of movies that came out last year on this list. So last year was a little better than I thought it was. So yeah, guys, what movies did you love from the past 5 years? Please let me know. I have to clean up after my dog. He's made a mess all over the place with his chew toys. Haven't you, Chester? Yeah, I think he just wants to play. Anyways, guys, I hope you have yourself a great day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and hey, I'll see you next time.